So I seem to have stumbled upon a new band recently. I actually stumbled upon them a fair while ago, if I'm to be honest. I heard a song, a single, that they released off their upcoming album that is still not out yet. And it was pretty basic in structure and everything, but it was very well, even though the structure was simple, everything was still kind of tight as a unit, and it all still sounded pretty solid. There was a good solo, there was good vocals. The chorus, the singer managed to get some pretty decent high notes there. They have a keyboardist and things. So I was quite intrigued by that. So that being it, I took a look at the first album, and it was pretty mellow. So because of the massive kind of change from hearing something quite simple yet kind of heavy, like a kind of rock song with a bit of power metal element, going to something really mellow, and I kind of just skipped through the tracks, and it always seemed just mellow. I just thought this isn't really got enough oomph for my kind of standards, so I just completely pushed it aside. Later they released another single, Unforgivable, which was a bit heavy on the keyboards, so it was very kind of the kind of 80s, 70s techno vibe with obviously the metal element in there. They're gonna have that. So that was a bit weird for me, a struggle to get into. Then another song released that featured Elise Reed off of Amaranthi. She's a great singer, but I absolutely hate Amaranthi for a fair few reasons. One, you have a great female vocalist. Two, you have a great male vocalist. And you have guitar solos. But it annoys me and winds me up because you have a screamer, and he is a standalone singer, therefore it's not subtle. He's going to have to do his part, because that's all he does. So that winds me up when you got two fantastic singers, yet you have a third which can't sing for the life of him. Also, the structure is always the same thing. It's the same sound, same way. It always starts with it's the female who sings first, then you get a bit from the screamer, then you get a chorus where it's harmonised, the two actual singers, then it's the male, then the screamer, and then for the breakdown it's the proper screamer. And that is every bloody song, and the same pattern all the time. So because of that, I kind of overlooked that song they released because of Elise Reed. Then they released another one, the final single, and I gave that a listen to, and it was unbelievable. It was absolutely amazing. Then I listened to the Elise Reed properly, and Jesus, I'm not even going to go into that much detail because I don't want to spoil things. Obviously, you can just go and do it yourself. But wow! And then I listened to that first song, the quite simplistic one, "Punish You," and then I listened to that kind of 70s one, and listening to them all apart, one after another, I got a very good thing from it, and seeing all the areas. So I thought, I'm going to go in and I'm going to give the first album an actual listen. And now I've listened to it 2 or 3 times fully through. I think I'm decent enough to give it a good listen. I would have preferred a bit more, but the new album's going to drop on the 17th or 19th, somewhere in that ballpark. So I need to kind of get on board a bit. So should I tell you the story of this band? Because even that is interesting. Or should I wait till the end? No, I think it's best if I discuss it now. The band is formed originally by the drummer and the bassist. They then later found the keyboardist, and then after that they found the vocalist as well as the lead guitarist. There is only one guitarist, by the way. They met in a music school. They attended a school which, according to their biography, it's a well-established school. It's well known. It's a famous music school, and they all met there, and they all trained, and then they obviously passed and got whatever grade is given in that area. So they were properly trained, and then they're together as a unit. Also, in the country they come from, there is a show where about 3,000 odd contestants apply, and 2 judges, and then if you pass, you then go in front of the judges and the live audience, and then you compete with all the other people. Kind of like X Factor or Britain's Got Talent, or America's Got Talent, which is probably the majority audience of people who view me. So that's basically what they did. They entered, and you can see this on YouTube. If you just type in Arion Live, you'll get Arion Live Lost, which is their entry song they did in front of the judges. Then they did 7, and then they finished it with the song they did originally for the judges, which was, again, Lost. Now, this is, again, quite unusual and interesting, and apparently they came 5th out of 3,000 or so, which I think is quite good, and obviously they're kind of power metal based, and that show is probably more catered to the pop kind of style, so it's amazing they even got that far. But the most interesting thing is this album, Arion Last of Us, all the members were around the age of 17 or 18. That's how young they are. It's pretty young. And when you listen to this album, the maturity of this album is insane, how mature it is, and how laid back and open it is, how well structured it is, how everything flows so nicely. It is unbelievable that kids so young, when kids around that age are going out doing drugs, drinking, partying, doing anything that moves. And this album is so mature and beyond their years. It's like this album is supposed to be something that you're supposed to take your time with and then mature over years and years and years until you get to that point. Like fine wine or something. You have to start and then develop and develop and develop, and then you get to that point. They came out the gate and just did it. And it's unbelievable because all these adults of around 40s, 50s, 30s or late 20s haven't done anything this mature and this well thought out. It is unbelievable. The lead singer, he's 17 or 18. He has an unbelievable voice. It's not high pitch. It's not like he's 8. But obviously it's not like he's an old fart either. It's like such a pristine voice. It is so perfect. The guitarist, he has heart. He has emotion. He has technicality. Now, he's obviously not going to be one of the greatest. He's still young. But wow, this guy is good, and given time, because he still has a lot of years on him, he can be very, very, very good. And in this album, again, he has the technicality and the heart and the feel. He is very good. But obviously there are people who are better, like Sinister Gates, the guitarist from Defecto, in my opinion. Obviously, Steve Vai and things are just ridiculously out there. But he's a really solid guitarist. The keyboardist doesn't usually overplay it. He knows his times and he knows things to make everything sound quite nice. He does keyboard, piano type of sounds, or the more kind of poppy sound, which isn't really in this album. It's in the later one on that track, which was quite 70s sounding. They're very diverse and they know their stuff. But getting into the album, the Last of Us by Arion. This came out in 2014, I believe it was. So the guys should probably be in their 20s now, so 2021, around that area. They should be at the minute. But when they did this, as I said, 17, 18. The first track's an opener, 2 minutes. It's not really got the band. There's some drums there, but I don't believe it's the actual drummer. They sound like them really big drums. That you got the massive bloody sticks and this boom boom. That's kind of how it kind of sounds. You got some kind of female operatic kind of singing as it kind of gets to the midline, because it starts quite slow and then it progresses, and it's quite fantasy sounding, which can put me off a fair bit. And I know some people who watch me, it may put you off too, but trust me, it's not like this is just full fantasy or it's just full medieval sounding like a lot of power metal. They really pull it back. It's there, but it's easily accessible. They know what they're doing. It's not just the typical thing. It's something they wanted to try at, but they don't want to be the same, therefore they pull it back a bit and it kind of stands on its own, which again, just really smart of them, in all honesty. But as I said, the first song, The Passage, it starts quite slow, it kind of keeps building, you get them really big drums, which is kind of slow beat. It's not bum 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 bum, kind of like crazy George of the Jungle type of thing, but quite slow. You get the feminine or operatic part, not saying any kind of words or anything, it's just, just make a noise type of thing. And then you got the kind of fantasy sound, so I don't know what it is. It may be a keyboard thing, but it kind of sounds, I imagine like a fairy that flies around, and that's the noise it would make. I don't know, it's the only way I can think of it. But yeah, that goes for 2 minutes, and it leads completely into Out of the Ashes, so it kind of dies down, and then as it kind of gets silent, it kind of builds up as it gets into Out of the Ashes. It starts out sounding kind of medieval sounding, but not to an aggressive point. It's just like, this is kind of medieval sounding, but not really, not completely. So it's kind of heavy, but it's not brutal. It's not absolutely aggressive. It's not 7 bloody strings, 8 strings and everything, 20 string bass guitars. It's not thundering drums. It's not massive bulky humbuckers and everything, making a very distorted sound. It's just a nice easy heavy intro to the song, and then as the singer gets in, it gets mellow, so the music kind of backs out, and then it's kind of the drums and the bass that carry the vocals as he sings this really kind of mellow and soft, soothing vocal line, and it's really kind of nice. The sound really relaxing compared to the majority of metal I listen to. Well, pretty much mostly all of the metal I listen to, if I think about it. So it's quite nice just to get that kind of medieval intro, again kind of medieval intro. Then you get the kind of break with the nice soothing vocal line from the singer, and then the guitars and that kind of comes back in as he finishes that vocal line. They'll come in for a few seconds and back to bass and drum, and then he does that line again, not the repeated line, but the same kind of thing, progressing. And then as it kind of goes, the guitars and everything goes with him, but his voice is always in the kind of soothing sector. His voice is a very, very warm, organic sound to his vocal lines. It's really nice. It's not piercing, it's not high, it's not sharp. It's very warm and organic, not too thick. It's a little thick, but not overly, and it's not too thin either. It's warm and just a bit of thickness to it. And with all the other instruments coming in, it's still a bit soothing. He puts a bit more of a oomph to it, but not overly, really. When it gets to the chorus it has kind of backing vocals. Not entirely sure if they're actually feminine or if it is the band. Maybe the feminine orchestral kind of sound. I think it is. Back to the kind of medieval kind of sound. So it's all the band quite heavy, medieval sound, the feminine orchestral sound going on, and then the actual vocalist doing a bit more power to it, but still warm and open and organic. And then when it gets back into that verse, it goes back to the kind of takes its time. Then dun dun dun. And it's really nice. It's really nice. Like I was closed to it because it's not typically my thing. But if you're open-minded and just kind of see everything as one and where they're going with the next album, you're in for something special. Seriously. But obviously it's your opinion what to do. I'm not saying you should, and then you will know because I'm right. But I'm just saying I did kind of pass this off. I didn't give it a chance, and when I did, I'm pleased I did. The solo is a keyboard solo. There's no guitar solo from what I know. Actually, no, I think there is a guitar solo. I think it starts keyboard. Yeah, it starts keyboard solo, and then you get a guitar solo. The keyboard solo is perfectly good as well. Really good, not very simple or anything. It's not overly showing off like a Dragon Force type of keyboard solo. It's a very solid solo, and the guitar has a nice tone to it. Not flashy or anything. Not super mellow either. It kind of just goes with the same kind of flow and pattern of the overall song. So then the next track, Shadows. Now this starts quite eerie sounding. It's not dark eerie. It's more kind of in line with the fantasy kind of feel, and it's got that kind of dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. I feel like an idiot when I do that. But that's kind of how it goes. That's the sound and everything. And the male vocalist kind of goes with it. Eventually, it starts with just a dun 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 dun, and then a bass dun 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 dun, kind of doing some kind of thick sound. And then the vocalist there comes in, and it's very very laid back, very open, warm again. But obviously it's quite eerie because that dun-dun-dun-dun and that bass, but because it's the dun-dun-dun-dun, it's quite high pitched. It's still kind of fantasy, and it kind of still sounds a bit bright as well. So it's eerie, but it's not kind of like, oh Jesus, this is creepy. It's nice, but it's got a bit of a darkness to it. It builds up, and the entire band does kind of come in, but they do kind of drop back out again. And then it kind of goes with that similar flow as it had. The chorus has more of a keyboard focus, so it's a lot more kind of bright because of the keyboard being kind of a bright kind of instrument. So it's a bit more kind of upbeat than the previous one, and obviously fantasy sounding compared to the kind of medieval kind of sound. When they go back to the verse, again, they add some subtle differences. There's some nuance and kind of things sprinkled here, and then some things over there, and put this there. Just here and there, just these little things, just to give it a slight change. The solo, again, keyboard. Not sure if there's a guitar. I definitely know in Out of the Ashes there was a guitar that came second, but here it may just be a keyboard. The next track, 7, this is one of the tracks they did for that TV show. It was not the first one they showed to the judges, but the next one they did, so semi-final or whatever. No, 7 is really nice. It starts slow, which is kind of typical, and then it kind of gets heavy. Then it goes back to the kind of mellow kind of sound again. But the chorus to this one is definitely kind of brilliant. It just seems quite big and kind of like what people say. would be good in the arenas. A really good song to hear because the vocals they kind of just soar here. They really do. It's a really good, powerful and strong chorus. The keyboards, it's dun dun dun, and it's all kind of there, and they're just pushing it. And the singers, they're really pushing and just pushing his heart out and everything with the vocals. It's quite high for him, so it's more of the high type of thing. Not high as in the kind of power metal yeah kind of thing, but just a bit more of a higher register as he just goes along fitting in the keyboards. Dun dun dun. But then he has some lines where it's just oh, and it's just big because it kind of goes, but then it kind of slows down to the dun dun dun. And the keys to that just sound great, and it kind of breaks up the other parts of the chorus, and then the vocals are really big, catchy, really memorable just because of how he's sung, and then the keyboard, how that works with him. It's really big, and it's just epic to listen to, in my opinion. You get a pure guitar solo here, not a keyboard at all. It's a nice solo. It's a bit laid back, but not melodic. It's just a nice sounding solo. It's got a bit of flash towards the end, a bit of speed. Not drastic speed, nothing in the slightest, but it's you could call it kind of shred, I would say. Last of Us is going to the most melodic, so it seems to be kind of stepping it down and down and down in the mellow department. But because everything sounds so kind of magical and so kind of nice and relaxed with great vocals and soaring kind of chorus style things, it actually keeps your interest. Like, this is the problem I had when I kind of first came out with listening to this. I kind of thought, if it's all kind of just mellow, I'm just going to get bored to tears. This is going to be so slow and drab. There's going to be nothing where I'm just like, yes. When it comes to them choruses, and then it does it to such an extent that it's so relaxing, but they don't overdo it. They know when to just bring it up and which part, and when to do changes and everything to keep it just like wow. And then the big chorus is just like wow, and then it kind of dies down. It's like, oh, this is really nice. They just know the song. It's really genius how they've done it. But anyway, I'm drabbling on so badly. Last of Us is pretty mellow. I probably wouldn't say it's as good as the other tracks, in fairness. It's still good. He has a great voice. The instruments are great, of course, good and everything. The guitar solo is the most melodic we get at the moment, but it's very good, obviously, because you get more of a focus on a melody solo instead of just doing something a bit kind of more rhythmic with a bit of flash there to kind of break it up a bit and give it a bit of a peak of interest. I Am Storm. This is actually a heavy song. Well, you could say heavy. It's not heavy, it's just heavier. Yeah, heavier. So when the singer actually comes in, because it starts quite punchy compared to the other starts. It's like, wow, okay, and obviously welcome change now from what we've been getting. So obviously we need to change now. We can't just keep doing the same thing. So they bring this in, and it goes quite nicely. It's a bit aggressive. It's a bit upfront with you, and when the vocalist comes in, the whole band is still there, and it kind of keeps that going. So it's like, okay then, and then the chorus, he kind of pushes it. His voice does seem to be a bit pushed. It doesn't seem to be his best comfort zone. He definitely seems more suited for the mellow, but his voice does cope. It does cope, but his voice just sounds more suited to melodic, I'm saying. But his voice is still very, 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 very good here. I'm not saying it isn't. It's just it does suit more the mellow side. But it's great. It's just the same style of what they've been doing, but the guitars and everything kind of stayed there, and then he takes a more kind of aggressive vocal line, and it's still kind of got the keys there and everything, so everything still kind of sounds bright and kind of cheerful, but it's got that heaviness to it. And then you get a solo again, really, really, really good, more focused on the kind of metal and everything. And then you get the next track, which is You're My Melody, which, by the name, is the melodic, the pure melodic. Now, some people may think it should kind of have risen to heavier, but no, I think that kind of gave us a nice taste, because, as I said, the previous songs have all kind of worked well and known how to keep your interest peaked and when to change and keep doing subtleties. And when they go to the riffs there, they usually do kind of add nuances here and there to kind of keep it kind of progressing and adding, and not have it so stripped, but to just add layers on, just to give it a bit more of that punch, kinda. So I Am the Storm obviously kind of comes out, but it's not like here we go. It brings it back down, way down, and it's really way down. It's so melodic. It's not. I wouldn't even say this is power metal or rock. I'd say this is kind of classical. There is a hell of a lot of piano in this. It's really piano based. It's the vocals is obviously really nice in here. The song lasts over 5 minutes. It seems to take its time. Not that it's a drag. It just it does progress as you go, but it's very, very slow, because it doesn't really get to a peak. It just adds things to keep it going, but it doesn't want to take away from that kind of classical, very melodic piano bass. But I think they know if they just kind of keep it like that, it's going to be a bit too slow, so they give it a bit of something. But obviously they can't just keep adding and adding and adding, because then it's just going to get too far away from what it's supposed to be. So they add where it has to be added, where you don't want to go any further, and just enough to keep it still in that area. It's again really well done, and for a song that's really kind of classical, it's really good. It sounds great. It's really nice, and just something so different to what I usually listen to. His voice is great, the piano is great. You get some of that kind of fantasy part, and then some of the drum, and then a bit of bass here and there. The solo is the most soaring melodic you get. Again, it's not the most heartfelt thing I've ever heard in my life, or compared to a fair few guitarists I actually know. But it's a really good show. I gotta say, I'm glad he tries. He's 17, 18, and for a kid at that age to do something so mature and so brilliant and understand, it's quite a feat. So I seriously respect the guy for it. It's really good. So next track, Burn Your Ship. This is heavy again. So now we're back to heavy. And maybe one of the heavier. Would I say it's heavier than I Am Storm? No, it probably isn't, because I think the verse for Burn Your Ship, it's a bit mellow compared to I Am the Storm. But the chorus, I would say, is probably heavier in Burn Your Ship to I Am the Storm. You get, I think, kind of gang vocals and things, and he's seriously pushing his vocals in Burn Your Ship to get that kind of aggression out. Goes along very, very, very well. Again, great solo. Next track, Lost. This is what they played to the judges to get into the competition, and it's what they did in the finale. This is what they presented. Now, I don't know why they finished on this, because I preferred 7, which was in the middle of what they did for that show. I think 7 was much better. I thought it had a really big chorus and big anthemic chorus and everything, which would have really given them a punch in the finale, I think. Lost seems to be too kind of slow at the start, and the chorus just doesn't have anything as big as what has kind of been done by them previously. It's still a pretty decent track, but I just don't think it's as big as what obviously people in the country actually think it is, because apparently they're quite well known for the song Lost, and I'm guessing people asked for it, which is why they brought it back for the finale, because people thought it was so good. As I said, I like it. I just prefer Seven, and I prefer other tracks to Lost. Lost, I don't know if I would say that Lost actually may be really down there in one of my least favourites. Notice I like every track. I like all the tracks here. So saying it's my least favourite doesn't mean it's my least favourite. I probably won't listen to it. I'll listen to it, but it's just not as big compared to the others, which is a shame. But obviously, everything's not going to be all at the same level. You're gonna like songs more than others, and there's going to be the one song which is going to be like the runt. And to me, that's Lost, unfortunately. Still great though, and again to others, it's still got great voice and great vocals, great musicianship, great chorus, good solo. So maybe one of your favourites for all I know. So definitely don't think it's bad. Watching You Fall is a pretty hefty track. It's around 7 minutes. It's heavy as well, but it's got a lot of changes to it. It definitely progressed. So this is a very kind of progressive metal track. It's kind of heavy, but then it kind of can slow down, and then sometimes it actually gets even heavier than how it started. And there's a lot of things going on, and they incorporate some things that have been there previously, but obviously it's all come together to this one song, which is Watching You Fall. It's a really decent track. It's not big like God, it's huge, because they like that kind of simplistic, very kind of laid back, relaxing sound, which it still has, even though it's a bit big. It's got the relaxing sound because one, that the guy's voice, no matter what he does, it's just quite relaxing. But yeah, it's a great track. It's the biggest one there is. It's progressive metal, this one, and there's a lot to it, and it's really well thought out. And that is it for the album of Arion, Last of Us. So, all trained in school. That's where they met. They did music school. They passed. One thinks that they did. I'm sure they passed. So they're all trained and everything, and goodness knows when they started playing. And then they went on a show of 3,000 people. Now, obviously a lot got cut before they even got in, but they got in, and then they did the semi-final, won that, and then got into the actual finals and got 5th place. Now obviously there's 4th and 3rd and 2nd and everything, so, and then 1st, so they're definitely not that good. It's a show that's big for the whole country. It's mostly pop artists. For a band that's like metal and does solos, like clearly they're doing something right. Now, I want to address something here that I think people may be getting me wrong now. They went on a show where people like pop. They got 5th place. Maybe that's because they are very poppy. I'm going to say no. No, they're not. And I'll explain why. A lot of people have a misunderstanding of what actual metal is. If you go to someone and say, what do you listen to? I listen to pop. What do you listen to? And then I would say metal. And they go, oh, you're into the all kind of things. And it's just like, no. It's like, well, that's all metal is. And they just don't get it, because their minds has been flooded with things like Slip on a Knot, or Meshuggah, or Dying Machine, and Cannibal Corpse. Bands, that are absolute crap, and an absolute insult and embarrassment to the industry. And if you like them, I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. So that's why I think people have a problem, because people don't understand the true metal has been lost. It's been buried and just completely overcome by crap of things like But For My Valentine, really lazy and just terrible, which isn't exciting to anyone. And then Slip On or Not, which is just growling and screaming his bloody head off until there's smoke coming out of his ears. And it doesn't sound good. No, this is an actual good singer. It's very laid back. It's very open. It's really beautiful, and then it's got the kind of big sounds, and then it's got actual guitar solos. And they're gonna like any kind of guitar solos, really, because no, I say he's a good guitarist, but obviously the people in the audience they don't see things like this. So if someone just kind of plays them an A chord, they're gonna go, "Oh my God, slow down." Like when I talked to someone saying, like Avril Lavigne, she's like, yeah, she's great and she's great on the guitar. I'm like, she's not great on the guitar. She's like, well, she's like one of the greatest guitarists in the world. I'm like, no, she really isn't. She plays chords, and I don't think she even can do power chords. I don't think she can do. She can't do shred. She can't sweep pick. She can't do untap. She doesn't do bends and slides. Well, basically anything. She can't do anything. It's just basic. And then she's like, "Oh, I don't even know what any of these things are." I'm like, her guitar doesn't even have a whammy on it. It's like, what's a whammy? So if you kind of just show them anything, it's gonna blow their minds, which is why what I'm saying. They did so well in a show which is mostly pop orientated and who would probably win, because the guitar is going to be overwhelming to them no matter what they do, and it's a very good guitarist, so it's going to be that much better. The vocalist is incredible of a vocalist. He is so great. It's so relaxing and so open that it's not just pure heavy metal. It's a very melodic metal, which I think is easier for people like them. And then it's got the big kind of choruses. It's very memorable. Like, I've only listened to it 2 or 3 times, and it's way more memorable than other things. But it does progress, and it does kind of change things up. And again, 17, 18 years old, and they do this. Something so mature and sophisticated. 17, 18-year-olds, people going out doing drugs, drinking, and banging. Anything that moves, like they're bloody dogs or something, because they're so horny. It's insane. They're so gifted, so mature, and they managed to do this album because apparently someone, a record label or producer or something along that line, saw them on the show and thought they were great. And this person has worked with some big people. I've forgotten pretty much all of them, but I don't know if it was like Arch Enemy, Symphony X type of thing. But yeah, pretty big metal acts, and he came to them and worked with them. And that's how they got here. And now, in a few days' time, the second album's going to come out. Unfortunately, the lead singer's gone. He's out. Apparently personal reasons, which is what all of them say. It's always personal reasons, so there's probably a lot more to it, but that's all they really ever say, every band where it happens. But the new singer, because obviously I've heard the songs off the new album, the new singer is very, very good. He's an incredible singer too, so it's not that bad. Compared to this guy, his voice is a bit more sharp and a bit more bright. It's not as warm, it's very sharp compared to this guy's. Rating this album, because it does kind of follow the same kind of thing, even though it does have changes and everything, as I say, and it always keeps your interest. I would have liked some more kind of punch and everything, because it does always kind of seem to flow with mellow. Even I Am the Storm and Burn Your Ship, Watching You Fall, the more kind of heavy songs, it's still quite melodic, even though it is actually heavy, because the voice is so kind of nice and the kind of fantasy sound. So I'd like something a bit kind of more tight and aggressive out of them. So because of that, I'll give this, God, what the hell would I give this? A 7.8. It's above average, it's good, and it's better than good, which would be beyond the 5. It's definitely on the way to great, but I think kind of falls flat because it is kind of repetitive and there's not that much to it, even though everything is good that they've given. So I would give it the 8 because it is really close to kind of great, because everything is pretty great that they do, but it's just a bit too similar. So a 7.8. Going from here, obviously I expect more diversity, harder, aggressive songs, more kind of like pure metal, aggression, more range with the vocals, bigger anthemic choruses, more from the guitarist and everything. I just want more. I want a lot of diversity, them to hit multiple genres, to try new things, and just be all over the place. Now I've heard 4 songs off of this new album that they're going to be releasing in a few days. So, I kind of know where they're going. Are they actually going to step out and actually do something a lot more harder and aggressive? A lot more kind of metal based? Maybe something else? And something else and something else? Are they actually going to go out there and do multiple things and be very diverse and still sound brilliant? That's the thing. And the 4 songs, they seem to be doing what I want. So there's hope, because the 4 songs are unbelievably different and very diverse, and they get quite heavy and very, very just punching. Not the fairy keyboard stuff, it's just aggressive with the sharper voice. So they just seem to be progressing the way they should be. They seem to know what they're doing. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the question is, are they losing something doing all of this? Going to where they're going now, are they going to lose what's special about The Last of Us? And is there going to be other sacrifices from trying to accomplish what they should have progressed to? Because this is all quite similar, so obviously they need to kind of step out and do new things. But in doing that, are they going to lose out on other things and forget about them? So we'll see. So I hope you liked. If you did, subscribe. I will review the next album, so if you want to be there for that, then obviously just follow me. If you like, leave a like. If you dislike, but please leave a comment so I know what it is that you didn't like, and hopefully I can improve on it next time. But thanks for watching and staying with me for this really long review. And until Orion's second album, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.